So that concludes our discussion of the Grazian reading on the hustle and rituals of urban nightlife. In all honesty, probably my favorite reading in this course. It just takes so many different interesting angles and approaches to the study of nightlife, especially city nightlife. But before we get into our conversation on night spaces, let's really briefly discuss nightlife not as it occurs in a physical space, but as it occurs in mediated forms. So all of the TV shows and movies and tabloids and magazines and stories that claim to represent nightlife. So look at these mediated representations of nightlife and ask yourself, what sort of meanings are being attached to nightlife practices? What sort of values are being attached? What version of nightlife is being portrayed and depicted here? What idea of nightlife is being portrayed through these images and symbols? So in the top left corner, we have the real world, and there's nothing real about it. It claims to be reality TV, but as with all reality TV, it's highly edited. And the real world chronicles the drunken debauchery and sexual abandon of 7 great-looking young people stumbling their way through the nightlife scene of whatever season, whatever city that season is being held in. There's nothing really representative of the real world in the show, The Real World. Its cast of characters was cast deliberately for a reason because they're all young and good looking. And then underneath that is just a slightly more tanned version of The Real World and the Jersey Shore. Again, it's a bunch of good-looking young people, tanned people, and in both cases of The Real World and Jersey Shore, all of the action and drama transpires at night. Literally any memorable scene from those shows, it'll be taking place at night. You could literally just cut out any daytime scenes from those shows and you wouldn't miss anything in terms of the narratives and the storylines. In the daytime scenes of those shows, they're literally just recovering from the previous night and getting ready for the next night. And at the Jersey Shore, it's all about getting crazy, getting wild, and violently fist pumping through the night. So what does that communicate to young people? Young people who make up the audience of these reality TV shows, both of which were on MTV, I believe. And they're obviously going to be looking up to the people they see on the screen, to the people they see just a bit older than them or the same age, and they're all good looking, and they all seem to be living their best life on these shows. Such a glamorous lifestyle. So that the message that's being sent is that if you want to be like them, if you want to be like your idols, you have to approach your life in the same way and your nightlife in the same way. You need to dress up and go out with your group of friends and drink and party and dance the night away. Forgetting the fact that in the real world, people have jobs to attend to, and they can't simply spend their days and just the decades of their youth recovering so that they can party harder at night. But it's a very disconcerting message that, partying should take priority over the rest of life. And it's a message that some young people have followed to their detriment, because eventually the party ends. And also notice the places that they go to party. They never stay home and just enjoy the night in each other's company. They're always going to authorized nightlife establishments, the place that have been given the authority in nightlife discourse as being the allowable places that you need to go in order to have the authorized nightlife experiences that these TV shows are depicting. Like, you never see them going off the grid and going to like a house party in someone's basement or like a rave in a random warehouse. It's always authorized nightlife establishments, the bars and the nightclubs and the restaurants that likely have some sort of deal with MTV, some sort of promotional deal, talking earlier about the PR side of nightlife. So we'll talk about this a bit later, but for the purpose of social control, why do you think these TV shows and mediated representation of nightlife are trying to channel and funnel people into those authorized nightlife spaces and practices over others? And there's a reason for this, because those authorized nightlife establishments are more centralized and well controlled, or more thoroughly controlled, so that when you're in them, when you're a part of them, you're spending and you're not being a disruption. You're just being a good model capitalist consumer. Despite the fact that nightlife is supposed to be this wild, crazy, loud thing, as depicted on TV, it's still taking place within the preordained spaces that discourse has allowed for as acceptable nightlife destinations. So besides shows like The Real World and the Jersey Shore, we also have the gamification of the courtship ritual. So we have shows like Eliminate, where four contestants, either four female contestants, will vie for the attention of the one guy who they're all trying to date, or vice versa. Four male contestants will vie for the affection of a woman. And just throughout the date, one by one, the contestants are progressively eliminated. And due to the gamified nature of these shows, there's usually some sort of game or competition that's kind of silly and entertaining. And then over the course of the 30-minute episode, the contestants are eliminated until there's only one left. And they're in love, and they're happily ever after. As if even the contestant had any choice. As if all four contestants are automatically in love with whoever the person they're competing for is. It all seems very artificial. Like, clearly they're just trying to produce a TV show. They're not trying to actually make matches, make genuine love connections between people. They're just trying to produce 30 minutes of entertainment with commercials. And that leads to an even more exaggerated version of that gamification of romance in the TV show Next. I believe that's also MTV. And this one, again, it's 4 or 5 contestants who get into a bus. And one by one, they each step off the bus and have a date with the guy or girl who they're all competing for. And then they'll be put through some sort of silly, nonsensical competition, completely unrelated to any traditional courtship rituals or criteria that people usually take into account when deciding who to date, such as, health and career or personality or attractiveness, and just purely who can complete this silly competition, who can throw a basketball into a hoop while wearing rollerblades. And just like all the others, it's highly edited. The contestants are there not to find love or romance, but just to get some screen time. And as such, they're encouraged to be as much of a caricature as possible. They are very over the top in whatever they're saying or doing, and they're really rude and mean to each other. There's a lot of like insult comedy and roasting of each other. Again, I'm pretty sure they were just fed lines from the producers, because it really just feels like a trashy, raunchy comedy roast. And then if the desired person who they're all competing for decides that one of them failed a competition or they're not impressing the person, then they can say next, and that contestant has to go back to the bus for the next person to come out and take a shot. But don't take my word for it. Let's watch a bit.
I'm Allison, I'm 19, and I'm a personal trainer, but I don't want to have to whip these guys into shape. Even if this
my way around a naked body.
I'm Justin, I'm 19, and I'm black and Italian, so I may be the first real Italian stallion.
I'm Eddie, I'm 20, and I'm hot enough to get away with saying that I love Ryan Seacrest.
I'm Brian, I'm 25. Once this girl sees my baby blues, she'll forget what color hers are.
I'm Carl, I'm 21, and I play college baseball, so I can't wait to show this girl my big bat.
What do you do, Brian?
Sales.
For real?
Hi.
Hey there, I'm Anji.
Allison, nice to meet you.
Allison. What is the stuff you got here?
Well, I played basketball for about 9 years, so I thought it'd be fun to mix it up a little bit and do it in some rollerblades.
Basketball's great. Okay. You must be the athletic type.
Yeah, actually, I'm a trainer at a club.
Personal trainer. Looks like you got a better six-pack than I do, so that's good.
What do you think its chances are?
He might not come off like instantly as being wonderful, but as soon as...
Oh, because that's my favorite kind of music.
Oh.
So I'm gonna have to say next.
I made $4. I guess I am a hick.
Okay, so first of all, it's really a time capsule of early to mid 2000s fashion. Everyone had their hair spiked and their puka shell necklaces and their collars popped. But yeah, just a really guilty pleasure of a show. And you saw at the end there, the guy got some money. I forgot that there's like a monetary element where for every minute you last on your date, you get $1. And then if you succeed, if you're the one that the person chooses, then you have the hard choice of going on a date with them or choosing the money. And it's only $1 per minute, so it ends up being like $26. It was just a really trashy show. And then we have next a classier version of the similar gamification of the courtship ritual in The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. It's classier in that it's more extended, it's more elongated of a process. Eliminate and Next are self-contained in one 20-minute episode. The Bachelor and Bachelorette processes unfold over the course of an entire season. and only one contestant is eliminated per episode usually. And it's determined by who gets a rose and who doesn't get a rose, but the final product is largely the same. Although I think there have been a few more sustainable relationships that have come about from The Bachelor compared to Eliminate or Next. But the producer of the show couldn't care less about that. They just want to make a TV show that captures the attention of its audience. So that was all quote unquote reality TV, but we also have fictional depictions of nightlife, such as Sex and the City, which really glamorizes the whole idea of going out for nightlife in the city. I mean, how many women idolized the Sex and the City gals and wanted to follow in their footsteps? How many girls' nights out were organized after being inspired by Sex and the City? They just make the lifestyle seem so lavish and luxurious. Each of the members of the crew had their own jet-setting careers that kept them occupied during the day, but they still had plenty of time to go out for tea and gossip about what happened last night and go out shopping and get a new dress for the next night. Sex and the City kind of cemented nightlife as the place to go to show off. Like if you just bought a new pair of Jimmy Choo high heels, then the only allowable, acceptable, reputable place is to go to a cocktail lounge or a bar or some sort of nightlife establishment. Those are the values that show is trying to instill upon its audience. So that in order to be glamorous, you need to be glamorous in a nightlife setting, in an authorized nightlife setting. All sorts of discursive associations going between things that we desire. So to be attractive, to be young, to be glamorous, and attaching those desirable notions to certain authorized practices, so that in order to be young and attractive and glamorous, you need to adopt the same practices you see on these shows in relation to nightlife. That is such a Miranda move. And then finally, in the bottom right corner, we have celebrity tabloids and paparazzi pictures and magazine and website coverage like TMZ. These depictions allegedly show more reality than the reality TV shows, but they're just as highly curated and scripted. Like the clubs that these celebrities or pseudo celebrities were spotted in and filmed in and photographed in are usually the result of some sort of deal, some sort of PR deal saying, hey, do you want Paris Hilton to show up in your club? Just a small fee and we can make that happen. Or hey, you want Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan? We could have them dance together seductively in your club. So club owners and operators are welcoming of this media element in their clubs. And they work symbiotically with celebrities such as, in my era, it was Paris Hilton and Britney Spears and Lindsay Lohan. I guess now it would be like the Kardashians. But again, these are figures in our popular culture who we idolize and we want to emulate in our practices and behaviors. So that if they're implicitly saying that this is the place to be, and by this I mean a nightlife establishment, then we know where to go if we want to be more like our idols. And we want to feel like a celebrity. And there's often a photographer at these nightclubs, just like a resident photographer with a really nice high quality camera offering to take pictures of anyone. Usually good-looking females who are patronizing the establishment, because again, it's a symbiotic relationship. It helps the person being photographed because it makes them feel glamorous, but then the club can then post that glamorous photo on their websites or social media to then draw in more people to pursue that advertised glamorous experience. So remember what I said at the beginning of this slide. What form of nightlife is being promoted through these mediated representations of it? Do you ever see glamorous paparazzi shots of Paris Hilton and Lindsay Lohan staying home for the night? Do you ever see a Jersey Shore episode of the Jersey Shore crew going to do community engagement work at night? Because that still happens at night. Like, media tries to make it seem like night is for one thing only, for like partying, and specifically partying at a club, not partying with your local community. Like, think about what people did during the night with each other before any of these nightlife hotspots existed. They would spend that time together as a collective, as a community. So gatherings and feasts and vigils and festivals, equally valid ways of spending your nightlife, but ways that aren't espoused and authorized by the mediated and immediate discourse surrounding nightlife.